First of all, you know that Microsoft has given a name for each cell. You can also add additional names to those cells, or your own custom name, or even a range of cells. For example, if I click in a cell here, you can see that Microsoft gave it a name. It's in the D column, row 12, so the name box refers to it as D12. Now let's say I want to give a name to another cell here. Let's say B4. Up here it's B4. Click in it. Go ahead and type in a name that you would like to give it, and I want to refer to it as quarter. Now, when it comes to naming these cells or ranges of cells, Excel doesn't like any spaces. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key and do an underscore and then type in 1. So I got my space there. Technically, I don't have a space there. It's an underscore, but it looks good to me. Then be sure to hit Enter on the keyboard when you're finished so it accepts it. Now, there's two benefits to naming your own cells or range of cells. The first benefit is if I'm down here in row 10,000, column AA, and I want to quickly go back up to quarter 1, I could come up here and just click on the drop down arrow and select quarter 1 and it pops right to it. Or vice versa, if it was down on row 10,000 and I went down there and named a cell or a range of cells, it would pop right to it. The second benefit for naming your cells or ranges of cells here, which we'll do in a minute, is that you can include those names in the formulas. So like let's say I want to go ahead and sum up the range here, which is C5 through C8. I can go ahead, instead of saying C5 colon C8, I could just say sum, and whatever the name I gave it up here, like let's say quarter 2, just type in sum quarter 2, and it'll automatically sum up that range. So that way I don't have to remember ranges. Let's see, it was B5 through G8, oh I don't know, the range is called quarter 2, and then I just type that in within the formula, and it'll automatically calculate it based upon that custom named range. Excel doesn't forget what the cells are, it just allows you to add an additional name on top of that cell. So again, for here with quarter 1, it's quarter 1, but I can still reference and go back to B4. If I come down here and click off in a blank area and I hit F5 because I want to go to a particular cell, down here I can type in B4 and click OK. It takes me right to it. But if I click off and I hit F5 again and I go select quarter 1, I click OK, it takes me right to it as well. So you're able to add an additional name on top of the cell's default name, which is B4. Now what if I made a mistake and quarter 1 wasn't supposed to be referring to the actual label here, the text, it's supposed to be referring to the numbers down below for New York, Georgia, Utah, and California. Well, if I need to make changes to my named range, there's not a really simple way of doing it. What you have to do is come up here and click on the Formulas tab, come to your Define Names group, and click on the Name Manager. Gives me a pop-up, there's the quarter 1, and I want to be able to change what it's referencing down below, which is on sheet 1. So it says equal sheet 1, and it has the operator exclamation point, because then anything that comes after that operator is referring to the cell within sheet 1, so it's B4, an absolute value B4. So what I want to do is click on the Collapse Dialog Box button, and then click and drag and select a new range, which is going to be B5 through B8, then hit Enter, and then either come up here and click on the expandable button here, or if I collapse it I can just hit Enter on the keyboard and then it pops back open. Either way works. And then come over here and check it, and then once I check it, it automatically, well, it's basically like saving it. And you can see it's referring to the values within that range, which is 5, 12, 3, and 10. Great. Go ahead and close, and I made my change. Of course, you can also delete it. When you saw in the Name Manager, you can come up here and just select it and delete that as well. Be sure, click OK. Close out. I selected my range, come back in the name box, and then I can go ahead and type in and then hit Enter. Now that's the easiest way to create a name for a selection of cells here, or just one cell. Another way of creating a name or defining a name is to go ahead and let's define this range as quarter 2. Now I could come up here and that's the easiest way, or on the Formulas tab in the Define Names group, click on the Define Name drop down arrow and let's define the name. Up here it gives me the text box. The default, it wants to pull the label, the column label up at the top, quarter 2. How about if I go ahead and change that, call it quarter 2. And then down in the comment box for my comments, I can say this is the total. And then when I'm finished, go ahead and click OK. Great. So if I click off in a blank area, and I can click on the drop down arrow, there's quarter 2. Go ahead and click on it, pulls me right to it. Now there's another way I can create names from a selection. So for example, I'm going to go ahead and select the range here. Includes New York and Georgia and Utah. And then up here in the Define Names group, I want to click on Create from Selection. When you hover over that, it tells you a little bit more about it. It'll automatically generate names from the selected cells. How does it do that? Well, when you click on it, it says what are the values for these cells. The names are coming from the left column here, the leftmost column, or is it the top row, or is it the bottom row or right column? Well, it's the leftmost column, so I'll go ahead and click OK. Then I can come up here and click on the drop down arrow. Let's see, I've got California, Georgia, let me go to New York. Hey, that's great. It took the name here and it said the name includes this range here. We go to Utah. There we go. It's pretty cool. Quick way of doing it, especially if you have a big, huge database and you want to quickly refer to the ranges over to the right-hand side with using the labels on the leftmost column here, or the leftmost part of your database, which is column A. Next, I want to be able to use these named ranges, as I told you about, in a formula. So for example, I'm going to come down here and click in this cell. And let's say I want to be able to sum up the range up above, which is when I click and drag it and I select it, it's quarter one, right? So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go ahead and type equals SUM to bring it up, open parentheses, and then all I have to do is type in the range, which is quarter. And as I start typing it, you see the name down below, quarter one. I mean, I could just finish typing it out or just double click on it. And then I could close it with the parentheses, but there's some things you don't have to do in Excel. In this, I don't have to add a parentheses for. It'll actually add it for me when I hit enter. When I click on the cell here and I get the actual value, I can look up in the formula bar and say it's referring to quarter one. And I'm like, well, what's quarter one? Just go ahead and click on it, and then it outlines actually quarter one, which includes the range of B5 through B8. I'm going to go ahead and hit escape. So again, if I didn't have the name range, I'd have to come in here and I'd have to type B5 colon through B8, and there's my range selected. Go ahead and hit enter, and it accepts it. Let's try it another way. I'm going to click on here and delete it. And what I want to do is I want to add all these ranges here, New York through California. Then I want to come up here on the Formulas tab, click on the AutoSum button, come over here in the Define Names group and say I want to use in the formula, like let's say California. If I want to include another range, then I want to go ahead and hit, well, down here you can see the cursors right after it. I can just go ahead and hit the comma to separate that and then click on Use in Formula, and let's go down and select Utah. So now I have two ranges. When I'm finished, just hit enter and it gives me $98 here. So let's see if that's correct. Utah and California. Click and drag and let me select the range. Down here on my stat bar it says 98, so it checks out. Hey, thanks for watching. If you like my video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you subscribe to my YouTube channel, as soon as I upload a new video, you'll be notified instantly, and you can do that by coming over here and clicking on my face. You can also click here to support me, so for $2 a month, you can have access to over 2,700 training videos, all ad-free, and for a few bucks more, you can have access to my exercises, instructor notes, quizzes, certificate of completion, and a whole lot more.